Hello and welcome back to Holistic Developer. I'm Anna, the host of this channel. And on this channel, if you're new, you will find anything and everything about software engineering. I'm talking here about best practices as a software engineer, how to land the job you like, how to prepare for coding interviews, and how to get further and faster in your tech career. So if that's something that resonates with you, please stay with this channel, sign up, meaning subscribe, turn the notification bell on, and yeah, let's get to today's topic. Today, I will be addressing and doing actually a video for what you asked. You actually requested me to create a video where I share with you the extensions that I use in Visual Studio Code. But a lot of web developers love Visual Studio Code and they love it because of its customizability. So Visual Studio was actually built with extensibility in mind, and to achieve customizability and extensibility, there are various ways of doing that. You can configure your settings, you can configure your UI, and also add some extensions that you can install, and those might be languages, debuggers, and tools that support you in your development workflow. Always look for different ways to streamline my coding experience to make sure that I'm most effective. So I have a plethora of different Visual Studio Code extensions. Some are to make me faster. Some are to avoid me typing the same code snippets over and over again. Some of them actually are motivational, entertainable, and some of them are actually to make sure that it's easier to work in a team, to collaborate, to do pair programming, and so forth. So if that is something that you're interested, if you're in the market to shop for Visual Studio Code extensions, meaning not necessarily to pay for them, it's just to find the Visual Studio Code extensions that will benefit your development workflow, then this is the video to watch. So let me switch to a different view. So I will share with you my Visual Studio Code setup. So this is my Visual Studio Code, and right on the right side, I have my panel. So you might be wondering, why is the panel on that side? It's so weird. It doesn't look like Visual Studio Code. The reason that I have it there is that I love it because when I need to save time, I will actually probably collapse the sidebar. And when I do that, you can see that my code is not moving. It stays there. So my eyes don't have to move back and forth to focus on the code. So kind of that one is just like make sure that I'm streamlining my code experience. And if that sidebar is on the left side, then you can imagine that the code moves with it as you collapse or expand the toolbar. So that being said, don't get surprised by where you see my sidebar. I have extensions open, so it's this icon right here from the sidebar. It looks like 4 squares and one it's a kind of on the side. It's kind of extensibility, adding a new extension to it to make sure that you can customize your Visual Studio Code experience as fast as you want for your coding experience. And this is great for different levels. Some extensions I recommend highly for people who are just learning to code. Either they learn to code JavaScript or they're learning to code in Python, TypeScript, or from experienced people. There are things that are recommended only for experienced people and not for people who are just learning to code. So I have here my extensions opened, and you can see that I have 33 extensions that I'm using. Some of them are used practically every single time I'm coding, and some of them are used on specific times. So I will start with the very bottom one, and this is Visual Studio Code extension Windows Colors. So if you find yourself working in different environments, what I want to say different environments, I want to say different Visual Studio Code extensions. You might have multiple projects opened, you might have the front end, you might have the back end. And when they are all Visual Studio Code extensions have exactly the same colors, you kind of have to try to find which one do you want to find. And with Visual Studio Code Windows colors or window colors, it's easier to kind of differentiate. When you open it, you would see different colors. Your backend might get a green color and your front end might get a blue color, and it stays consistent through your experience, and you kind of really quickly can jump between them and you know which one it is. So I find it useful for me for navigation purposes. Walk time, it's something that I like because it provides me metrics, insights, and time tracking to see what do I spend my time on. It helps me to actually estimate better when I need to know how long it takes to do something. So if I were to actually scroll and show just a little bit of what is there, you can see how many hours did you code through the week or through the month, how much time did you spend on specific projects. You have your target, maybe you want to code every day no less than 4 hours, and here you see how you are doing based on your target. You can see like what languages you're coding, and they have a paid version. I haven't tried it, but it's as simple as installing an API into your Visual Studio Code extension, and your time will be automatically tracked. I actually have a video about how I keep track of my active coding time. So this is the extension I'm using in that case. Visual Studio Intellicode, and your AI assisted development, like it's said in the description right there. And it's for C#, C++, TypeScript, Java, XAML, and other programming languages that it supports as well. And basically, as you can see from this video animation here, like when you start to type something, you do a dot, and then you have a drop down with different suggestions, recommendations with what can you do with that. And it's useful multiple times. Definitely don't recommend it for people who just start to learn to code, but people who actually are already familiar and know anything and everything about software engineering, how to program, they know the API and everything, then definitely recommend it to give it a try. To-do tree. Actually, this is one of my top coding extension that I really enjoy. The reason I enjoy it is that it's an extension that allows me to stay focused on the task that I want to do. I always or you will probably might be the same. When you're coding, it's easy to get sidetracked. Oh, this thing needs to be done as well, but this needs to be done first. Then the other thing needs to be fixed, right? And it's really easy to get sidetracked and you start with one thing and you end up doing a different thing, which is not really good practice in software engineering. So staying focused on the task on hand, and as you realize something needs to be done, you can do a to-do list and then address it next or when the time comes, and you can prioritize it. And the fact I liked about this is that it provides this sidebar where you'll see everything as a tree. It shows you the path in your projects where stuff needs to be addressed, and you can tackle them one at a time. I really like it. And sorry, my voice is raspy for whatever reason, probably because it's early. It's 5:40 in the morning right now. Okay, moving on to the next Visual Studio Code extension, and that is Remote WSL. I am coding on Windows operation system, and as part of my bootcamp experience, I needed to use Linux because I was learning Linux. So what did I do? I installed Windows Subsystem for Linux, which is WSL short, and I used for my learning of JavaScript, Python, and any other languages or frameworks that I learned during my bootcamp experience. And one thing that I found, it has some performance issues, and I believe it was fixed recently. But yeah, this is something that I recommend if you have to use your subsystem. Welcome. So if you need a playground for your editor, so if you find yourself opening Visual Studio Chrome development, did I say Visual Studio Code extension Chrome? Oh my God, sorry. I meant if you opened your Chrome browser and you go to DevTools and you use the it's called console, I believe. It's called console, and you use it at constant time to always to test your code to see how it will evaluate. Well, this is then the extension for you. It's actually a playground for you if you want to see how the code will look when something is executed, something is done, and provides you with useful highlighting. Green means everything is okay. If you get orange, it's a warning, and if red, something won't compile or something won't work. I do recommend this for people who just start to learn. I actually used this when I was learning JavaScript promises. It helped me kind of solidify the knowledge, like what happens when you have a promise, then you have a then you have a catch, and so on. It really helped me solidify those skills. Okay, moving on to the extension. It's a Python extension. It's basically an extension from Microsoft, and you see it's really popular. And actually, about 27 million people downloaded this, and it's just an extension to develop in Python. So it's straightforward. Prettier. If you Google what are the best Visual Studio Code extensions, you definitely will find a list of this. Like you will find top 20 Visual Studio Code extensions, and the majority of them will include this. And I believe in the top 5 Visual Studio Code extension, and actually this will be there as well. So if you want your code to look nice, well formatted across different projects, this is the extension that you should use. It definitely format your code, and you can configure it to format it on paste, on save, and it's customizable as you can expect. Next, Polycode. Basically, it's like when you probably navigating different forums, maybe you read on Medium or different blogs and you see code really nice formatted, looking like a picture. Well, probably they are using Polaroid ID or Polycode for the code that they do, and it's simple as copy the code that you want, you paste it in the Polycode, you get a Polaroid picture of your code, and you can share it on any blog post or to document your learning experience or your project. You also can use it on your readmes for your projects, to the code to look nice and well looking. If you are a fan of Google material components and design, this is probably an extension that you will love as well. And as you can see, about 6 million people, 6 million developers downloaded it. Actually, it says that 21 million downloaded. So many people, 5.6 million people have it installed. The rating's almost 5. And I probably am with those people as well, because I really, really like this. Imagine that you have a huge project, has multiple files, different types, and you really quickly need to find a specific file, a folder or file or something specific, and you know that that is a Docker file. Then you look for the icon, Docker icon, and you easily can scroll with your mind, with your eyes, and see what exactly you're looking for. You can look for Pug, which I really like. It's adorable Pug icon there. And I looked and used different extensions, icon extensions before, and this is actually my favorite. The icons are really, really nice, well designed. So if you want your icons to look aesthetically pleasing, this is an extension for you. This is also one of my recently acquired extensions that I really like. I found that for the projects that I was doing readmes, and I was going forward from, okay, what did I type? How does it look? Back and forth. And then I came across this extension and I was like, oh my God, this is a lifesaver. As you type in your markdown, right next to your typing raw mode, you can preview how that will look. And that's a huge time saver. You don't have to imagine or wonder how it will look and making mistakes that it doesn't look like you want. Moving on to live share. If you want to collaborate, if you want to do pair programming, if you want to share the knowledge, do code reviews, like sky is the limit. But Live Share, Visual Studio Code Live Share code extension, it's one of my top favorite Visual Studio Code extensions, and actually it's at the top of my 5 Visual Studio Code extension. And the reason is that it helps you to collaborate. It's so great for collaboration. It's as simple as you start a live share session, you get a link, you share with people you want to collaborate, and they can join the session, and everybody can see and navigate the code. They can follow some person, or the person can go and navigate the code as they need with everything that you shared. And you can take turns, everybody can type, you can use your terminal, you can use the browser if you share it. It's amazing, and I loved it, and I used it practically every day during my bootcamp experience. Did you find yourself in the situation when you type something in your text editor, code editor, then you open the browser, you refresh, and you want to see your code changes, how they look? Well, you no longer have to do that if you use Visual Studio Code Live Server extension. As you type, everything immediately gets reloaded, and you see how everything looks. So it's launched on a development local server with the live reload features for static and dynamic pages, and it's a lifesaver when you want to be fast and see the code implemented immediately, so you don't have to do those extra clicks to refresh the screen. I love code snippets. I've recently found about them, and now it's something that I use on a regular basis. So if you find something that you have exactly the same code that you type over and over and over again, then this is an extension for you. And this is particular for JavaScript and ES6 code snippets. It has snippets for the most used code. Like if you're tired of typing import something from something, then you just use this extension, type IMP, and you'll have that code imported. And it's really easy, straightforward, and actually I'll create a different video on the code snippets because I love it. And as nice as this is, I really like to customize my code snippets. So that's why I have my code snippets. Okay, moving on to Intellisense for CSS class names and HTML. So if you find yourself that you're a web developer and you are spending a lot of time in HTML and CSS styling, and you are, for instance, like me, don't remember how you named something, or you constantly misspell something, this is an extension that will streamline your development workflow. It will show you in your HTML as you type, it will show you what CSS classes do you have. It will be as a drop down, and you can select them and not do the same mistakes as I do and misspell them and then spend half an hour, and try to figure out why something is not working and where is the broken link. Moving on to Intent Rainbow. If you are developing with Python, you will love this extension. I guarantee you that. The reason is that Python is really sensitive on indentation. It doesn't like to have extra white spaces. It's really picky. It's great language, but it's picky on its indentation. And having indentation colorization or kind of visual representation, how many spaces do you have there, how they align, it definitely helps you write your code faster and immediately spot if there's something wrong where the indentation is not correct. So this is definitely a must-have for Flask developers who are developing in Flask, or Python developers as well. Moving on to the next extension. I love Git, and Git Lens is one of the extension that has a lot of things, that you can do with your code. You can look at, let's go to Git Lens. And here's my Git Lens. You can see what is the project you're looking at, how many files did it change, what are the last changes you've done, what are the files changed, like it shows you all the changes. Sorry, excuse me. You can see the remotes, you can see the stashes, tags, and history of code, and so much you can do. However, I do have a lot of Git extensions because I don't find everything in one extension. I like different flavors of multiple extensions. So my next favorite extension is Git History. I really like the Git History because it gives you the nice look of the extensions you have. So it looks like most likely it looks like this. And you can search here, you can cherry pick something, you can rebase. It kind of definitely shows you more things you can do. And one thing that I want to make clear is that all of this obviously can be done in a terminal, but it's so much easier to have an UI. It helps you, at least it helps me be faster because I'm a visual person. And moving on to the next Git extension that I love, and is Git Graph. As you can see from the name, it's a graph representation of your repository. And one thing that I really enjoy is the colorful representation of my branches, where which branch is, which commit is last used there, where is your head. And also I really enjoy the fact that you can compare side by side how did the file change from the previous one. You can see line by line what changed. Moving on to the next extensions that I have on my Visual Studio, in my Visual Studio Code. So Esl Lint is probably one of also the most recommended, the most popular Visual Studio Code extensions that you find. If you Google, you definitely will come across this Esl Lint. So when should you use this? If you want your code to be formatted the same, clean code, easy to read, you want to have a consistent practice, then definitely this is a must-have. And it's particularly valuable when you work with multiple people. You have the code formatted exactly the same. So if you have the same Esl Lint configuration across your team, it's definitely useful. And also, when you have it configured, all their code, it will be always looking the same formatted. So yeah, definitely. And also, you can have it configured and it will yell at you if you have any warnings and errors. And actually, sometimes that annoys me as a lot. So what I do, I change the configuration. So I do leave the warnings that I want to get on and the errors that I want to get yelled at for. But there are some that I don't care about them, so I turn those off. So it's highly customizable as well. So if you find yourself that you want to write code that is clean, easy to read, it's the same, then definitely use this. And it's a hand-in-hand with Prettier, so they have overlapping functionality there. Till today, I always used Dracula extension, and today I actually installed a different extension, but I really liked this extension for its colors, and I liked that it was clear differentiations where my code part is written and where is my terminal. So today I installed a different theme, so I'll get to that just shortly. Moving on to .env extension. So I need to hurry up because this gets really long. So if you find yourself that you are working a lot with .env files, this is amazing because it's highlighting your syntax and it's easy to view and see everything what's happening in your .env file. Moving on to Docker. Same as with Git, you can do everything from your command line or you can do stuff from your Git console or UI. However, if you want to have like one-stop shopping experience, you want to have everything in your code editor, then you can install Docker and it makes it easy to create, manage, and debug any containerized applications. You see your containers, you see your images, your registers, volumes, networks, and you can do like a lot of stuff that you can do with Docker, so you have everything in one place. If you find yourself that you are using constantly console log as a software engineer in JavaScript, you definitely should try Debugger for Chrome. It's just one step further for debugging your application. and it's so much easier, so much faster than just having a whole bunch of console log in your code. So definitely recommended to explore it. Code time, it's practically on the same niche as walk time. Is basically it's using this application to keep track of your coding experience. How much do you code? How many keystrokes? How many new code did you add? How much did you delete? And overall, kind of show your activity through time. So it's your programming metrics in Visual Studio Code. Moving on. Code spell checker. So this is a lifesaver for me because I make a lot of mistakes. I don't type correctly. So having a code spell checker extension definitely saves me time. So I don't make mistakes and then try to figure out where the code was broken because I didn't spell correctly. And one word that I definitely misspell on regular basis is length. And I do array dot something and I didn't spell length correctly, or string dot and something but is not spelled length, and it seems in my mind that it's length but it's not length. So this extension saves me a lot of time. Code runner is amazing. It's basically, as the extension name suggests, you can run your code, and you can run C, you can run C++, Java, JS, HTTP, sorry, it's PHP, Python, Perl, Ruby, Go. It's like, oh my god, you can run your code, a lot of code. So definitely recommend this one. And we are getting close to the final code extensions. Bear with me, sorry, it takes so long. I just love talking about code extensions. It's something that makes you faster as a software engineer and helps you. So I really like this one. I actually came across this extension today, and I came across it browsing Visual Studio Code extension popular extensions, and I found this one, and I really like this theme because it clearly separates my terminal from where I'm writing code. And actually, I like this fact that my comments have a different font. It kind of looks like handwritten notes. It's basically your comment, and it kind of separates the code from your comments. I really like that. So moving on to bracket pair colorizer. Oh my god. One of the pains of a software engineer is to work on highly nested code. And in those cases, you have to say, okay, where something starts, where it ends, where is the bracket starting, where it's ending. And it's like time consuming, and sometimes it can become like a lot of time wasted on trying to figure out if everything is closed or open as expected. So as the name suggests here, it's colorizing matching bracket. As you can see, like in this simple screenshot, you have a closing and open bracket, and it's the same color. Everything is clear. You see curly braces. You can see that it's purple. It's open and closed, and you have other brackets or curly brackets inside the method, and it's for the if statement, and it's blue. It's basically, you see everything looking nice, and you can easily at a glance see if everything is matching and the brackets are open and closed correctly. So it's just amazing. I definitely highly recommend. This is definitely in my top 5 Visual Studio Code extensions as a programmer. And then we go to better comments. So if you find yourself in situations where you want to comment your code and they have different use cases, this is an extension that definitely should be installed in your Visual Studio Code. And the reason is that if you want to have them color differentiated, like if you want something to be alerting you, if you want something to be just informational, and something that you want to revisit, this is the extension. So something that you just want to document, what is your method doing, what is your class doing, then you can simply just use regular comment. But if you want something that want you to be alerted every single time you are in that code, you use an exclamation point. If something you want to revisit, you're not sure, you want to chat that with your peers and stuff like that, you can do a question mark. I definitely used this when I was learning to code, and if something was not clear, I would do a question mark and I'll move on to what I needed to do, because I was in a bootcamp and it was fast moving, really aggressive. I didn't have time to really stop on every single thing. And now that I have time, I can open my code again and see where were my questions and revisit that, make sure that I understand it. As you can see, it's really easy. It kind of color codes your comments and gives you better information. Moving on to Beautify, it's basically making your code look more beautiful. It's really also loved extension. It's really popular. As you can see, it's about 5.5 or more than 5.5 million users, developers are using this, and it's basically to make your code look cleaner, to have a consistent indentation, and you can probably configure it based on the type of the file. You can configure it for HTML, for JavaScript, for CSS, and other languages. It's really nice and makes your beautiful code look beautiful. Finally, we got to 100 days of code, and this is an extension. It's probably used for motivational. It won't make you a better software engineer long term, probably yes, but short term, it just keeps you engaged and motivated, probably. So let's look at milestones. So what this extension does, it just gives you different milestones as you code. So today I am in sync. I program it in JavaScript. And I got an hour of code yesterday. Then I had 30 hours of code that I achieved on August 31st. I definitely have more than that, but this is not keeping track of it probably correctly, but I need to figure out. But it's definitely nice, kind of this little nudges of inspiration, motivation to continue to like, oh, I want to get that 50 days of coding, or I want to have to reach the curiosity milestone. So yeah, it's something that keeps you motivated and getting to do something fast. Not necessarily fast, but to continue striving for the next achievement. Those were the extensions that I'm using. As you can see, there are 27. Some are that I'm using all the time, and some that are used now and then. And there are extensions that, as I mentioned, I recommend for entry-level people and for people who just started to code, people who are middle-level or senior software engineers. Like, for instance, I definitely don't recommend people who just started to learn to code to use snippets. The reason is that you need to be really comfortable to know the syntax. You really want to know that for loop syntax over and over again, because if you install this and you start to use it and suddenly you have to Google something, and when you look at the code there, the for loop, you will have to try to think like, oh, okay, what is that, right? But if you are really comfortable with the code, with the syntax, then it makes sense to use snippets. So this is something that I recommend for people who are already experienced software engineers, and for people who are just learning. Quokka is the extension to use to learn. It basically helps you see how the code will execute. It's your playground. So yeah, those are the extensions. And somehow, I don't know, but I skipped over Path Intellisense. And that is one of my favorite extensions. Actually, it's on my top extensions, like top 5 Visual Studio Code extensions. And the reason is that the more your project grows, the faster it grows or the bigger it grows, it comes to a point where it's really hard to remember all the file directories, all the path. And as the name suggests, like as you want to import something, specify a path, you get in your quotes, you get Intellisense suggestions of your path. And it's a time saver. Trust me, I love it. So I usually would recommend another extension, but now you don't have to do that as extension anymore. And that is something that making sure that your code, like Visual Studio Code, is configured consistently across different machines. So I have multiple machines, and every time that I needed to set them up, I needed to make sure that they both are configured the same. And God forbid, I needed to reinstall my Visual Studio Code or my my operation system. Then I have to do everything from scratch again. So to not have to do that again, you can use this setting that is part of Visual Studio Code. It's called setting sync on. So you can turn it on from your gear, and you can see, like, you can turn it off, you can turn it on. You have to log in with GitHub or log in with probably Microsoft, and you can see what data was synced. So my UI changed, my extension changed like 48 minutes ago, and here it has all my extensions. The beauty of this is that you can have consistent experience across different machines. You can share it with people. Oh my God, that took a lot of time, a lot of chatting. So hopefully you found useful information. I really want to hear your favorite Visual Studio Code extensions, so make sure to drop them in the comments below. And also, which extensions were surprising to you to see in my list of extensions that are installed in my Visual Studio Code. Thank you for watching until the end. That's impressive. Thank you. It's about 40 minutes video long. It's, oh my God. So thank you for staying tuned. Thank you for watching until the end. Make sure to like this video. Make sure to comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Next videos will be amazing. I promise you, they will be even better than this one. And see you in the next one. Bye bye.